Coming up in today's Locked On Angels, Sam Blum from The Athletic is here to talk about everything Angels baseball here in the offseason, from starting pitching to the shortstop situation, all the way to the lockout. That's right now on Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Locked On Angels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Steve Granado. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can follow me over on Twitter at Steve Granado, Granado. All right, we had a really great conversation with Sam Blum from The Athletic. We're going to get to that in just a second. One programming note, want to remind you all that this is our final week of 5 episodes a week. Starting on Monday, December the 20th, we will be moving to 3 episodes a week, so we'll be likely coming out on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So just wanted to give you guys a heads up. All right, let's go ahead and jump right to it. Sam Blum, great dude, new Angels writer over the last couple of months or so. He took over about midway point through last season, somewhere around there. But he's here to talk about everything. Let's go ahead and jump right to that conversation with Sam Blum from The Athletic. Hanging out today with Sam Blum here on Locked On Angels, athletic writer covering the Halos. Of course, Sam, thanks for jumping on today, man. I'm excited to get you. We haven't had you on the show yet, so very excited to see you and to hear your voice.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. I really appreciate you having me on. Happy to be here.
Yeah, there's a number of topics I want to go through here today. Obviously, you're a guy that is following this team very closely and has got the inside track. So one question I keep getting here from Angels fans, and it seems like I have to talk about this every week now, and it's maybe something that you might not be thinking about, the shortstop situation. Obviously, the pitching front is what's always been on everybody's forefront, but this offseason, especially now that we're in this lockout, I keep getting question after question. What's the shortstop situation? What's the shortstop situation? So I'm going to send it on over to you to quell those rumors. What is the shortstop situation from your viewpoint?
From my viewpoint, and I would preface it by saying it is from my viewpoint, but just kind of reading between the lines and getting a sense of what I think might be happening is my sense is it's going to be internal. They're not, I mean, if you listen to what Perry's talked about all offseason and what their actions and what they've, who they've signed and what their priorities have been and where their payroll is, it really doesn't make a lot of sense for them to go and make a big signing. I know there are guys out there to be signed, and some of them have already, 2 of them have gone to one division rival team in the Rangers. But I mean, I think you're looking at Luis Rengifo. I think you're looking at David Fletcher. I think you're looking at, other guys who they've kind of picked up this offseason, like Tyler Wade, Andrew Velazquez, Brendan Davis, those guys who are just in the organization who, maybe will perform better. I think what you have in David Fletcher, especially defensively and, offensively, not as productive a player right now. But like you said at the beginning, at the top of the question, I mean, their priority is pitching. It's really been their only major acquisitions, and they're really their only acquisitions at all so far this offseason. So I wouldn't expect that to change, especially since there's still holes in that rotation and in the significant holes in the bullpen too.
Yeah, I know that at least looking, outside looking in, kind of, to echo what you just said there, but it doesn't seem like, I think if the Angels had done absolutely nothing and all they had internally essentially was Luis Rengifo, then maybe you can consider, maybe they'd be still considering a Trevor Story or something. But right now, I mean, you get Wade, you get Velazquez, and it just seems like, okay, we're going to let them battle it out at spring training, which for my money is kind of interesting and kind of fun if you're looking for a fun spring training storyline.
Yeah, and it's, I think people will be disappointed because everyone, especially Angels fans, love a good, big name signing. And the names were there this offseason. It just doesn't really, from my perspective, and I'm guessing, from the front office's perspective, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, their payroll right now is just a couple million shy from what it was last year. And I know that there's obvious holes to fill in the rotation, and there are good pitchers out there to sign that if you look at just the way pitchers have been getting paid so far before this lockout, would indicate, I mean, if you're going to sign like a Clayton Kershaw at this point, it's going to cost you north of $100 million, probably far north of that. So that's where I think the Angels are prioritizing right now. I'm not necessarily saying they're going to sign Clayton Kershaw or someone of that caliber, but I think they're looking to sign another big, starting pitcher. They're also going to have to pay some people to, pay some guys out in the bullpen. And I think there's an opportunity, maybe if they're trying to, maybe acquire a shortstop, they could, I guess, trade for more pitching, and look to sign a shortstop at that point. And there's a lot of options. I mean, there are so many different things they could, trade Brandon Marsh, Joe Adell, and really make things crazy. I've had people pitch to me, well, maybe they could, move Walsh to the outfield inside Freddie Freeman. There's so many things out there. You could go down a lot of rabbit holes. I just think if you're looking at it really logically, in the way that they've kind of talked and the way that they have already kind of made moves so far this offseason, and especially if you just look at the math, look at the money, look at the payroll, it doesn't make a lot of sense for them to go out and do some big splash to get like Carlos Correa. It doesn't seem like it fits right now.
Yeah, and also just I think a lot of it has to do with Angels fans have been very lucky with their shortstop situation for years and years and years.
Right.
They've had very good shortstops for years and years. All right, Angels fans, it's been an interesting offseason to say the least, and it's not going to be long before pitchers and catchers report, and I'm going to give you the inside track on the absolute best fantasy baseball platform in the industry. It's Fantrax. Fantrax is the most customizable MLB fantasy platform in the industry, offering the greatest fantasy experience for your dynasty, keeper, redraft, and best ball leagues. They got them all. Create or join a fantasy baseball commissioner league, invite your friends, and dominate your draft this season. It's also the top dynasty fantasy baseball platform in the industry. And if you're coming from another service, Fantrax can actually import all your current leagues and customize them if needed. Among the most trusted names in fantasy sports since 2008, Fantrax invites you to sign up today for free. And if you do, you're going to be entered to win an official MLB signed Fernando Tatis Jr. baseball. Awesome. Go to fantrax.com/lockedon. Use the promo code TATIS. That's TATIS. No accent, Tatis, when you sign up to be eligible to win. If there's anything lacking in your current fantasy league manager, Fantrax likely has it. Don't miss this opportunity. Sign up today to win official MLB signed Fernando Tatis Jr. ball. Simply go to fantrax.com/lockedon and use the promo code Tatis. Fantrax, the home of fantasy sports. Play ball. And this episode is also brought to you by DirecTV Stream. Stop me if you've heard this before. You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another one that lets you stream your favorite shows, then you're watching movies somewhere else and sports highlights somewhere else. It's a mess. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all that entertainment you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch all your favorite things in one place. That means no more juggling remotes, no more buying another device ever again, and the best part of it all, no annual contracts. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required and content varies by package. You brought up pitching, so let's go ahead and go to there. But I want to take it from a different angle. You had a really interesting piece that we actually talked about on Locked On Angels last week, was the Michael Lorenzen piece and his decision to come to Anaheim. And I use that word very specifically, his decision to come to Anaheim. He, and with Noah Syndergaard, seemingly everything that we have learned seems like they had other offers and they chose Anaheim. Now, again, this is all from your perspective. So from your perspective, would you say that there's a shift a little bit with Perry and maybe a signing of getting like a guy like Connor Hinchlife from Driveline into the front office? Are those things that players are noticing now, and that's why maybe they're starting to choose Anaheim?
It's an interesting question. I think it's tough to say. I think with the Angels, anything that would be considered a shift, you first need to see the results because they just haven't proven it over the years. And so you sign guys like Lorenzen and Syndergaard, and I think a lot of people might say that those signings were a little overpriced. I think everybody will portray themselves as having a lot of good options. It would be hard for me to believe that there are many other better options than the money that they signed and the opportunities that they got here. Lorenzen was promised to be in the starting rotation when, he doesn't have any. He has some experience. He hasn't had it in 6 years, and he hasn't really proven it. You know what I mean? he hasn't come out and been an electric, starter. He hasn't. There are guys that the Angels have that have more experience starting that will have less guaranteed roles going into spring. And so, I think, there is a shift, and you definitely can tell when you talk with Perry that like there is like a concerted effort to make things different, to make this organization operate differently, and to build, probably for the long term, like you referenced the, hiring Driveline employee, like, they obviously have made some different changes to the way their front office is structured, their player development is structured. So there's going to be some changes. I just think that it comes down to having to actually prove it first. And, if these guys on 1-year deals end up working out, then I think you could say, hey, look, like this math, this, strategy has paid off. But, until that point, it looks pretty similar to what they typically do, which is sign starting pitchers to 1-year deals. It's been like a long time since they've done anything different. It's interesting that the bullpen guys are the ones that have gotten the more long-term options this year. So, I think they gotta show that it works first, because it's been a couple of years of doing the same thing. And, I was a little surprised they let out, who knows what the situation was with Alex Cobb, but, Alex talked a lot about wanting to come back. And I thought the deal that he ended up signing, theoretically would be in the Angels price range. It was, I believe, 2 years, $20 million with the Giants. So, it was an interesting thing to let him go, especially considering how well he pitched, I thought, especially, right before his injury in July. And even when he came back, he was doing really well. So I think it's just going to be a matter of seeing how it plays out before, we say, hey, look, the Angels are making significant changes.
Let's stay on the pitching front now, and obviously the elephant in the room is the Angels just didn't get one of the big guys. Yes, Noah Syndergaard, but that wasn't the guy that everyone had on their radar, heading into the offseason. So the Angels didn't get him flat out, and it felt like Groundhog Day. I know Angels fans were really bumming hard. The Stroman situation, the Scherzer situation, all these big names just didn't happen. They're not going to pitch in Anaheim. So where is that focus now going for the Angels? Are they looking at guys like Carlos Rodon? Are they fully out on free agents? Are they looking towards just going the Luis Castillo route, trying to work a deal out there? Where's the Angels' focus pitching wise now?
It's got to be interesting, because there's no, right now everyone's kind of in this like put your pencils down hiatus type of moment. So, I think a lot of that will depend on where and when we come out of this and how things look. But I think I would just say that, without giving you the concrete, here's what they're exactly going to do answer, I would say that I think they're going to. It'd be impossible for me to think that they're not going to look at a guy like Rodon, the best starting pitchers that are left out, on the market. Like you said, there's a lot of disappointment among Angels fans around how, especially a lot of teams in the division, signing really good pitching, like Robbie Ray going to the Mariners, and I think that frustration is amplified when it's the teams around you making those those signings, especially when the Angels are known for shelling out on big name free agents. So I just think it'd be impossible at this point for them to say we're out on starting pitching in terms of whether that's like making a trade for Luis Castillo, because that would be an incredible trade for them, and they've had successful trades in the recent past with the Cincinnati Reds, or looking at a Rodon or a Kershaw or whoever it might be that's still available, because they need to go in with more than what they have right now. That's why I thought it was so interesting that they gave Lorenzen that guarantee, because if they were to sign somebody else, there's nothing saying like, hey, what if Griffin Canning comes into camp and he's healthy and pitching a lot better, and or Sam Bachman is looking like he could be someone that might start up. That's why I'm surprised that was kind of a finite decision on Lorenzen before he's really shown that that's like something he'll do successfully.
Was there like, from what obviously I know you don't know everything about it here, but was there like, yes, 100% you're going to start no matter what, like even if he just completely can't show up in spring, or what? How guaranteed is that spot?
According to Lorenzen, it's guaranteed. There's no competition in spring. That was what he said, and that is echoed by the comments that Perry made. And the thing I find so interesting about that is that in theory should be a manager's decision. So I know that Lorenzen and Joe Maddon did have a conversation of some kind, but I do wonder, when you're making deals and you say, as part of the deal, you can have a rotation spot, that would make me feel like that's something that would be communicated to Joe Madden rather than Joe Madden communicating that to the player. And so I wonder, it raises a question for me about how this whole thing is really structured. Is it something that Joe is being told, hey, look, Michael Lorenzen, we're signing him and we're starting him? Or is it something that, Joe is really involved in those types of discussions and he has asked first, hey, are you comfortable with this? Because that's also possible. But, it wouldn't lead me to believe that. I wouldn't think that's likely, but it makes me wonder exactly, who's calling some of the shots when it comes to who's playing where and how they're being utilized.
Yeah, I know that was at least there were some stories that had come out during the tail end of the Socha era that there was some front office versus in the dugout decisions that were a little sour. So I'm curious if that has carried over into a newer era of Angels baseball. Let's stick with coaching right there. Obviously, Phil Nevin coming back. That's cool for Southern California baseball. I know Joe Madden's super big on the Southern California baseball thing and keeping it within the family, if you will. But Hank Conger not going to be coming back to the Angels in a coaching capacity. That may have been an option for the Angels in the coaching front. But where do the Angels stand coaching wise right now with those two vacant holes?
Well, and I know they were also, at least according to our, Ken Rosenthal said that Wayne Kirby is not. You don't usually see deals falling apart for like first base coaches. So I was curious to see why reports about that were coming out. I wonder if there was some sort of issue, more background on that. But I think with the Angels coaching situation, it was interesting that they did not keep Jose Molina. He's obviously, one of the better defensive catchers in history, and obviously has a history, won a World Series, with the Angels, and obviously played there. So it's and very popular. He was popular with players, and Max Stassi was one of the best defensive catchers in the game. So I'm curious to kind of learn more about that. But also, I just in terms of what they're going to do now, obviously Phil Nevin will come back. Then the other two spots are still open. They got to find a catching coach, and they got to find a first base coach. And, I think it remains to be seen exactly if the first base coach will be like an outfield coach, or, how exactly they're going to, put together the staff in terms of coaching infield, outfield. But, they need to find someone. And it was interesting that they did promise almost a month ago, maybe even more than a month ago, that it would that those announcements would be imminent. So we're still waiting on them, and they can make those announcements and they can make those hires. This is not a situation where it's the union or the lockout is preventing them from discussing that type of stuff. So they can make those hires. They just, as far as I know, have not yet.
This episode is brought to you by Stance. Okay, the first couple of times I heard about Stance apparel, I didn't believe what people were saying. It can't be that soft. It can't be that well made. Well, you thought that Stance was probably going to be another one of those trends that people are always coming up with, right? Then I actually wore some of their socks. Honestly, one of the softest pair of socks, if not the softest pair of socks I have ever worn. Founded in 2009, Stance Apparel represents a radical reinvention of socks, underwear, and active apparel. With a sharp focus on comfort, quality, and creativity, Stance brings an atypical aesthetic alongside some of pop culture's hottest collaborators for the ultimate in style and self-expression, because everything you wear should be a direct extension of who you are and how you feel. Honestly, that's all great. The socks are super soft. I promise you that. That's the best part of it all. Stance believes that the perfect fit matters more than fitting in, that those who feel good, do good. Go see for yourself. Register for an account at stance.com and get 15% off your first purchase with the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout to apply. Enjoy the color and comfort of a life less ordinary with Stance. Yeah, let's go into that just really quickly, since you get to be there every day and you get to walk into the ballpark and see these things happening. The third base coach, first base coach, like from a fan's perspective, who's just flipping on the game at 7:00. All we're seeing is a guy waving a hand, or he's putting a hand up, or he's grabbing somebody's elbow pad at first. So how more involved are those coaches when it comes to like non-game specific stuff?
I mean, like with Brian Butterfield, who was the third base coach and was let go. He's really well respected as a great infield coach, and I think listen, the Angels infield defense wasn't what they wanted it to be. So I'm guessing that, that probably played a part in why he wasn't brought back. And he obviously has a history with Joe Madden. But these guys are, they're doing a lot. I mean, they're doing a lot in terms of scouting the opposing defense. And if you're talking about like sending a guy from third, I mean, that's a big part of it, is understanding who is a good arm, who plays where. As an infield coach, I mean, Butterfield's the first guy out there. He's basically hitting grounders to no one until someone shows up there with a glove. You know what I mean? And so that's really their role, is to, help develop guys, especially when you have an Angels team that, I think will be using versatile defenders, right? Like you had like Phil Gosselin last year, and obviously he's not coming back. But he was not like sure-handed defensively pretty much anywhere, right? But they kind of had to use him in different places. So, he was someone that was always out there just like getting as much work in as he possibly could. And I imagine it'll be similar if they have if Tyler Wade ends up making the team. You want him to be sure-handed wherever he plays, because I'm sure he's capable of playing pretty much 6-7 positions. And so it's important to have good base coaches and good infield, outfield coaches when you have guys who might be playing out of position at times, which I think will be something the Angels are asking players to do.
This whole conversation hanging over our heads is the lockout, obviously. We joked about it before we started recording here, and I know from the fans' perspective, everyone's just like, when's this thing gonna end? Like, let's go. Like, I feel like there's very little patience on the fan front, even if it is the off season. I feel like a lot of fans are just they're kind of tuning out, but they're going like, let me know when it's over. That's kind of the feeling I get from Angels fans and from fans around baseball. What are your feelings? Where are you at with the lockout?
I'd love for it to end as soon as possible, because it's like you said, it's hanging over you, because you don't know when it ends exactly, and you don't know if it'll impact the season. And I listen, there's not a lot coming out about negotiations right now, so you're kind of in this holding pattern. And just from my perspective, as someone that trying to looking at it objectively, like I didn't love the way that MLB came out with the letter posted on every single website. And I thought they were, this is obviously a complicated issue with people that have with sides that have very differing perspectives. And so kind of leveraging the branding of Major League Baseball to put out a very one-sided statement was, an interesting choice. And, it's just going to, I think all it speaks to is that these sides are so far apart. And, you just hope that the threat of not playing baseball is what forces people to relent, both sides possibly to relent on certain things that create an agreement here, because nobody's going to make money with no baseball, right? I mean, this all comes down to money, and there's no money to be had if there's no games being played. So, I mean, there's a lot of interesting dynamics at play here, and I think it's the show, or the Ohtani Juan Kenobi bobblehead is just turning into the Juan Kenobi. I know everyone loved that. It's just stuff like that. It's just, I think it probably, if I had to guess, it rubs players the wrong way, because it's, I'm not even sure that stuff like that is necessary. I know our website, The Athletic, posted a really interesting story about just how necessary it was for MLB to kind of like erase all players from their, pretty much every team website. And it's just, these things are negotiating tactics playing out in front of everybody. So it's in some ways interesting, and in some ways excruciating and frustrating, because we're sitting here, you and I are having a conversation about, infield, outfield, pitching. And at the same time, we're all like, it's like you said, it's just the elephant in the room. It's hanging over you of like, well, does any of that matter? Because right now there's not even a season on the schedule until this is done.
Yeah, it's very like, what are the Angels going to do with the shortstop? It's like, well, nothing right now. Like, you can't do nothing about it.
Nope.
Yeah, it's a very, very strange dynamic. And at this point, as of this recording, everything I've seen, they haven't even met, as far as I know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and maybe that's a good thing. If we're not hearing about it, that could mean a good thing, because I doubt everyone's just kind of like chilling right now. I'm sure there's stuff happening, but yeah, who knows? I mean, it's nothing's really out there. So I expect Evan Drellich to know if something's happening. I'm following him.
Yeah, we'll see. Of course, you can follow Sam on Twitter as well. We'll leave his Twitter link in the episode description here on YouTube, and of course on our audio side. Sam Blum, athletic writer. Highly, highly recommend reading The Athletic. It is one of my favorite publications. And Sam, I'm glad that you're on the beat now with the Halos. Thanks for joining us here today, man.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for us in today's Locked On Angels. Thanks so much for checking us out and making your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. We'll be back with more. Again, we are still 5 days a week right now. Starting December 20th, we are going to 3 times a week. Just a reminder. All right, guys, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Later.